area and within the East Coast. She's from the East Coast, and she's blessed us here in Kansas City the last 4 years with her poetry, her organization. She activates the activists in education. She's very well integrated into Kansas City, especially Casey Rents. And what other Casey Tennis, I'm sorry. Yeah. What are your other causes?
We can just say like Liberation Lit. It's a prison abolition organization.
So so she's going to be reading a poet by Jose that is on the walls of the gallery where Hugh did his art, and so it's based on Hugh's art. And then she'll be reading some work about collaboration, and she'll tell you more about it as she goes along. So welcome, Melissa.
All right.
Hi y'all, how y'all doing?
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump into Jose's piece. I had Hugh walk me through the exhibit, and it's phenomenal, y'all. Like, I think one of the things that Hugh embodies and represents is what it means to undo the deeds of one's ancestors, and what it takes to do that. And it takes a certain level of compassion, a certain level of facing what is uncomfortable, and facing what is absolutely necessary to face, and understanding the ways in which we are implicated in the violences that plague us all, right? And so it was very moving. And this is Jose's poem. Jose, wherever you're laying in bed, send me some courage. Okay. It begins with a line by Voltaire. It is forbidden to kill. Therefore all murderers are punished unless they kill in large numbers to the sound of trumpets. Voltaire. And the poem is called Invasion. The pigeons bring tidings of another war. Refugee messages circle the blank-eyed cities. They would have been here sooner, but the cannonade buckled latitude and longitude to arbitrary nodes. Unwrap the gauze lightly from the pigeon's legs. Lay it flat on the table. Study the contours, dark edges, lines, the sacred text of plans, the weight of metal tracks, the metronome for melodies of bleeding trumpets. Converging plains and lines defile snow-draped fields. There is nothing new to see here or there. Nothing memorializes what is already forgotten. No monuments consecrate what was never sacred. There is no fog but a shimmering night, glimpses defining the topography of death, edicts now gray slabs and coils of iron bar, crystallized concrete in the gleam of a cold moon, erased bodies fertilize the hollow ground as a flag whips high above collapsed hall. Jose, give it up for Jose. All right, now I'm gonna read you some of my poetry, because why not? If you asked me to be up here, you're gonna hear my words. That's just how it's gonna be. And this is more in the spirit of Esprit de Corps. From what I understand, I do speak a little French, but I'm gonna butcher everything, so don't trust me as a reliable narrator. But for me, Esprit de Corps is speaking of something that I've been deeply delving and digging into with my organizing work, and as an educator and as a poet, which is like the spirit of the body and the spirit of what it means to be embodied, right? Embodied understanding, embodied sense of community and belonging, and the reality of nature and all of life being something that cannot exist alone or in solitude. Anything that doesn't exist in solitude is still reliant on the conditions of nature, which is alive, to maintain its existence. And this is true for all things that are alive. And so that's what Esprit de Corps means to me. And I'm just gonna read these poems now. Do you remember when we were children? We learned to listen sweetly. Learned we to sweetly listen in harmony with the in between. How wonderful, fully full of wonder to be witnessed, wistfully, within, without abandon, without missing the mark of willingness to wander. We found so much majesty in majesty in majesty, majesty in belief. This poem is called The Broke Girl Purples because Broke Girl Blues was too cliche. That's all I gotta say about that. Okay. Purple because it is blue and red put together. And blue is sad, but blue is also expansive and pinpricked. And I look up, and it is freeing then, looking up and at times looking across the ocean at sunrise red because sometimes I be mad and sometimes I be in love, so in love that I've lost fear of annihilation. And now I think about dying in the best ways, like laughing with my friends, without care of who I am today, laughing because I have the time to and am not stretched, am not reach or race or grasp. I am not heavy, have not lost my patience or capacity for care due to capitalism. And there is no chain yanking me away from here in this coffee shop with my friends grinding. Broke girl purples because today I sit in my sovereignty. I cultivate the land of my life, and I am finding it to be fertile ground. And despite lack of coin to keep me afloat, I walk on water. Despite absence of a nest egg, I have a home. Purple because sometimes I get bruised but not abused, even though my skin is brown. Purple because slavery is a nightmare that I am waking up from. And supremacy can't enter the gates of this relation. So this is our kingdom, the kingdom of those I love, broke girl, because of how often I let my heart break from bursting. Broke girl, because these cracks, these holes, and these chunks taken out of me, been letting in the light. I have one more poem and I'm gonna get out of your face. Okay. I am having a good time. Are you having a good time? Good. Check in with the self, check in with the friends. We good? Okay. This is a poem called Agape. And if you don't know what agape is like the divine unconditional love of God. But it also sounds like, whenever I see it, it's like agape, so like very open and ajar, which you'll get in this poem. Mouth ajar, innocence unbarred in bathroom stall scribbles, for a good time call all, lonely cries for help and the support that follows, incendiary words from stitched lips whose guts boast a fiery yearning for flame and ash to take the place of worthless, chattering chains. I love you. Mouth ajar, the woman and man in ecstasy, grasping a body, maybe their own, maybe someone else's, learning what intimacy is for the first time, and how it enters in more than just a hole as every pore opens and becomes receptacle for tawny, ephemeral pheromones and promises of life continuing forevermore. I love you. And to the woman and man who only know flesh hitting flesh, a smacking slop, consumption, and discreet ripening of more pull away. I also love you. Mouth ajar, the holy choir, a chamber of stars and murmuring melodic whispers that travel light years into hallowed halls of churches and schoolrooms in first grade. The children laughing as they watch an overzealous teacher conduct and scratch his head in middle school, the voices crackling, octaves switching in high school, the children with the ego that enter into the midst of the vocal cords vibrating, on sidewalks, sitting on crates with hat turned upward, guitar with broken string, heart with burgeoning dreams, in showers, in bedrooms, in closets, in cars, on screens, on stages, whispered into lovers' ears, I love you. Mouth ajar, masticating in fine dining facilities gorging at the Thanksgiving table, pecking at the crumbs from the hands of the old lady who cares for dirt-covered doves, masticating in the mess hall and bomb-ridden terrains in the cafeteria while eyeing the boy or the girl 2 tables across from you, in the soup kitchen, in front of the hot dog carts in Manhattan, the food from the dumpster behind the Aldi, the one that doesn't throw bleach on good food, after the wedding, after the funeral, after the birth, after you've thrown up the last meal, after you've left the hospital, after you've said goodbye, after the first awkward conversation, after and before, and to those who chew before and through, I love you. Mouth ajar, a whooping yell on the prairie, cowboy call and riding into the sunset, the native and the drum becoming one on the tongue around a fire, the tribesmen with feet moving like flames upon the African dirt, the babe mouthing first words through jewel and digit, the women in large hats at the front of the church giving up the ghost and singing ancestral songs, the slaves in the fields tuning to the tone of freedom rising from the water surface, falling from the air, the medicine woman, the medicine man, in deep trance and channel, the Messiah on Golgotha, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, and forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. The centurion declaring he could see, the man on his knees, will you? The woman, teary-eyed, yes. The many mouths yelling Maria or Stella into the night sky. The woman yelling as she breaches. The man yelling at his son. The son yelling at himself in the mirror. The daughter yelling into her small frame. The homeless man and woman yelling on the street corner, the birds caw after prey, the crowd, any crowd with any ululation or outcry, with any assertion necessary enough to open the throat and emote, I love you, mouth ajar. Wim Hof in ice baths, my friends in ice baths, the monk who knows clarity, the wrestler, the runner, the weightlifter, the yogi, the baller, the leaves, the stems, the roots, and even the flowers, the soon-to-be mother on the hospital bed, the grass, the mother sitting next to the hospital bed, holding her daughter's hand, the mother in the kitchen, over the sink, over the stove, the baby at her feet, the girl losing her virginity, the baby who breached the creatures of the land in their way, of the air in their way, of the sea in their way, the man whose hammer missed. My roommate in his room in the morning, my sister, before she jumped and right before her body hit the ground, everyone who jumped and right before their bodies hit the ground, the ones who dove into waters certain and uncertain, the ones in hospital beds as their eyes closed for the final time, God giving life to Adam, both parts of him, Adam, both parts of him. I love you. Thank you.
I wish we could have that passion every moment. That is wonderful. Thank you, Melissa. Next, I want to introduce Glenn North, who some of you know well. He's been in Kansas City since the very beginning, his very beginning. He's very active with different communities within Kansas City, not only the poetry community, but he's also worked with the Black Archives. He's worked with the Jazz Museum, and then you also worked with the Bruce R. Watkins Center, and now he's with the Kansas City Museum. And he is the Inclusive and Creative Impact Director there, and they're very blessed to have him, I'm sure, and I encourage you all to go see that wonderful new facility. And so may we welcome National Poet Glenn North.
Is this art or a speaker?
Speaker.
Okay.
That will be art. Now it's
all right. I was just seeing if you guys were awake. Everybody awake? All right. So I just met Melissa, and oh my goodness, I mean, that was incredible. This mic is so hot, I can't get close to it. But I'm here today really primarily because of my friendship and collaboration with Ada Koch. About 8 years ago, we started working together on a project that she envisioned that was exploring violence and war, and Ada thought it might be cool if my poems accompanied the paintings that she did. And I thought it would be a one-off. I've collaborated with a lot of folks, but Ada's like, nope, you're gonna come with me, and it's been that way for 8 years. And so we did have an exhibit here a while back, and the title of the exhibit was Hope Forward. And so this is the poem that kind of provided, I guess, like the spirit of that exhibit. Hope springs eternal in even the hardest of human hearts. When accompanied by love, inevitably our deepest fears depart. The sign at the entrance of hell reads, abandon hope, all ye who enter here. But none of us are quite there yet, so we must persevere. I think of a scrawny, scrappy boy born on the island of Hawaii who embraced every nuance of hope with pure audacity, and by becoming president gave the world a glimpse of what America could be. Cut to Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Rayshard Brooks, Elijah McClain, whose shed blood continues the narrative of 400 years of pain, which is why our hope must march forward until our humanity is regained.
Come on.
Hope forward.
Come on.
So this is a really short poem. I love haiku, and a haiku, for those, I'm sure you all do know, but 3-line poem with 17 syllables, 5 in the first, 7 in the second, 5 in the third. I love haiku, but sometimes that's just not enough syllables, right? And so I took the liberty of creating an extension of the haiku that I called an urku, which is an urban haiku. So the introduction is way longer than the poem, but an urku has 7 syllables in the first, 9 in the second, and 7 in the third. And so Ada had done this series of cloud paintings, and I had done urku in response to them, but the one that is currently on exhibit says, quite simply, under a cloud cathedral, city dwellers search for proof of love, trace its shadow on the sidewalks. All right. So I think one of the most important opportunities that Ada and I shared was to work with Mothers in Charge. It is an organization, the chapter that is here in Kansas City was started by Rosalind Temple, and they provide a support system for mothers in particular, but the families who survive, homicide, somebody in their family has been murdered. She works very closely with the police to canvass neighborhoods, to try to get information, and oftentimes she's able to get helpful information that the police would not be able to get because of the relationship between Black folks and the police, quite frankly. And so Ada's just been incredibly instrumental in the work of trying to prevent homicide, helping those families who've been victimized by it. And it's just an amazing thing to have the opportunity to see how she navigates the world. And so I wrote this poem that was inspired by her work. Ada did a wonderful painting that was also inspired by the work that's being done by Mothers in Charge. I'm on this new medication that I just got a crazy dry mouth, but the medication's helping. All right. The poem is called How to Mourn a Brown Boy. Prepare while he is still alive. Know that from the moment your belly swelled with him, he was in the crosshairs. Tell the boy to pull up his pants, to walk with purpose, pursue greatness, but know that it won't protect him. After expending your maternal energy, realize there is a competing trilogy of blood, bone, and bullet. If it has been 48 hours since your last phone conversation, strengthen your index finger for numerous readouts. Know his haunts as well as his homies and his honeys so they can be properly interrogated. Have a statement prepared for the reporters who pretend to care. Practice the 1,000-yard stare so you can look into the camera and plead with the perpetrator to turn himself in. Cry out for the folks in the neighborhood who saw something to come forward. Don't expect them to. Save 1/10 of all your earnings to cover the reward money. Stock up on candles and flowers and teddy bears to adorn the shrine where you will find the body outlined in chalk. Discover the thin line between funeral and circus. Have an array of photos prepared for the rest in peace t-shirts that will need to be printed. Clear out cabinet space for all the napkins, paper plates, and plastic cups that will be left over after the crowd in your home disappears. Learn to live with the silence. Realize that in the darkest hour, a mother's arms have the ability to embrace ghosts. Steel your heart against that moment each morning you awake to the returning grief. Arrive at the conclusion that there is no substance on earth that can fill the hole, but God can comfort the space around it. Help the hood discern the difference between snitch and witness, because senseless murder is everybody's business. Become initiated into the sorority no woman wants to belong to. Know that tomorrow it will be another mother's son inking the headlines. Go to her. She will need you. I hadn't planned on doing this poem today, but Melissa, you inspired me. There's a poem that I wrote a while back that I think is in conversation with the last poem that you shared, Agape. And this poem was actually inspired by, I got asked to write a poem for an event that was celebrating an exhibit at the Nelson called The Americans. It was the photography of Robert Frank. And there was this really cool photograph of Allen Ginsberg, who is a poet that I admire. Back in the day, he wrote a poem called Howl that really changed contemporary American poetry. It really pushed the lines. It was heavily influenced by jazz. And so I thought it would be fun to do my version of Howl. And so this is called Howl the Remix. Let me see. I saw the stupefied souls of my generation ravaged by the heinous heresy that a hyper-hedonistic, self-seeking I me my existence could bring them joy. Souls clothed in insatiable flesh, folding themselves into medicine cabinets, scurrying into translucent sepia-toned bottles, seduced by pharmaceutical solutions to substantiate a pseudo-reality. Opioid oafs who somehow believe themselves to be better than the meth heads and crack whores tweaking on 39th and Main. Souls racked with existential angst so swathed in the sashes of self-absorption and neo-narcissism, desensitized to the ultra-violence of the dum-diddy-dum-dum day, that the bullet-ridden, blood-soaked infant ghosts of Sandy Hook barely give them pause. Souls in gentrified, exposed brick downtown lofts, northeast roach-infested tenements, overpriced midtown 2 stories, angry Brookside cottages, make America great again, Lee Summit Ranch styles, all stuck on their stupid couches of obesity, stymied in a Netflix stupor, a bizarre, banal, binge-watching bonanza of buffoonery. Souls no longer seeking truth and beauty in art, or the muse in music, having turned their backs on jazz, settle for canned, computerized, cacophonic caricatures lacking composition, monotonous, auto-tuned, sordid strip club symphonies, twerk tracks transcribed for titillation. I've seen souls in need of screens, any screen, to Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, tweet, looking for swipe right love and likes from strangers, posting photos of their vacuously vain vacations and their mundane megalomaniacal meals while little girls in Flint, Michigan don't have clean drinking water. Souls of grown men obsessed with playing with balls, playing with their own balls, erotomaniacs purveying porn, pulverizing their penises, a potpourri of predatory predilections so perverse, so pervasive that the touch from a real woman leaves them impotent. Souls of women diminished into dysmorphic delusions, lifting, nipping, tucking, cutting, injecting, dieting, dying for a Photoshop fantasy frame, a Botox vision of beauty that can never be obtained. Souls with holes that can't be filled, bartering their bodies on Craigslist or Tinder, but no tenderness, no authentic intimacy, no caress, only the conjugal clanking of janky genitals joined in an unregenerate gyration of jaundice and jism. As I stood on the corner of 18th and Vine, a Charlie Parker tune howling from the Blue Room, I counted myself among those souls, dodging the image of myself reflected in the windows of cars passing by, not wanting to see the man I said I'd never be, the man I have become, another in the legion of souls who in the vanity of mortality cobbled together gods from dream catchers and crystals, swastikas and pistols, synthetic gods who would worship us. And I watched Jesus wave goodbye from a Greyhound bus. Oh Lord, who will we pray to now? Yeah, I wasn't planning on doing that one, but Melissa, yeah, I just wanted, yeah. All right, so this is short. And this is National Poetry Month, so I wrote a poem called 21st Century Ars Poetica, and Ars Poetica is a subgenre of poetry that speaks to the art of poetry itself. That is the Latin phrase for the art of poetry. And here we go. A poem should sprout wings and soar across the blank page, contort itself into a vessel that one can fill with rage, compose syllables into symphonies for the troubled ear, weave itself into threads of memory so folks will know it was here. A poem should be a moonrise aglow with the lunacy of love or an altruistic spirit humbly doing what it does. A poem should worship the creator, lifting its voice to heaven's gate, or be a field of blossoming orchids where truth and beauty consummate. A poem should report breaking news with wisdom as current as it is ancient and never rush to rhyme, but let line breaks reveal its patience. A poem should steel itself with the strength of a Kevlar vest, be a shield that stops the bullet from piercing a brown boy's chest. A poem should be a vaccine, a verse that can cure a virus, both metrical and medicinal, inscribed on papyrus. A poem should be as selfless as the heavens and the sea. In short, it should be everything that humans long to be.
Come on.
Sit down, you wanna stay here? Okay.
Thank you for those pointed and beautiful poems, Glenn. That was wonderful. Very moving. So I also want to say very moving was the other artists who participate here today, including Rick Clogg. I wanted to spend the whole event in this room when he's playing, and it just takes you away from the humdrum of your day and into a very meditative and peaceful moment. Beautiful music, and thank you for sharing it with us, Rick. So this event, as I mentioned, came about because we got Ada and TJ in the room, and we also want to thank Ada as well for donating her wonderful canvases that you're seeing being worked on. And each of you will get to leave with one of those canvases. So Ada, do you want to stand up for, we can thank you. TJ for donating this wonderful space, and I hope you all will come back and bring a friend. It's a wonderful gallery, and I it's truly an artist gallery. And then I also want to give a shout out to Estrado Garcia, who did the wonderful film, and that's another meditative area. Do you want to go into that area?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. And then to Michelle and Angie Dreyer, worked very diligently on the mural, as well as you will see they're from Two Tone Press, they're sisters, and they've done the wonderful poster and design work that you see in one of the galleries, and very well-known press that they have, used by the Nelson and several other organizations here in Kansas City, because their esteem, creativity, and prestige. And they have a gift area, so you're actually welcome to go into they have a little storefront, so you're actually welcome to visit Two Tone Press as a patron. I also want to thank Hugh Merrill, who was here just a few moments ago. He had to go on to another event. His wonderful art graces these walls here. And I also wanted to thank him for being an early advisor of Guildit. He was our fiscal agent when we first became, before we even became a nonprofit, under his wonderful organization. And so we were very thankful for him helping us come along. I also wanted to introduce Amy Bagnell, who's a former board member of Guildit, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about Guildit, just a few more minutes, and we're going to have a few testimonies of the artists here who participated in Guildit, and then I'll introduce other people involved in Guildit.
Suzanne's vision is really phenomenal, right? I was doing the math, and I think in November of 2022, it'll have been 5 years since my very first Guildit Forum. So Guildit to me, I'm a marketer by trade. Somebody on the board suggested I was going to read poetry, but I will say this: we all may not be aware of it, but artists in a community help everyone thrive. It lifts the community up so that we bring in more interesting individuals, new businesses, entrepreneurship, etc. And so to be able to be a part of Guildit, which really looks at Kansas City mid-career level artists and says, how can we help you with your best business practices so you can actually thrive? You're not wondering if you're going to Uber next month or Airbnb part of your place of your home. So I know that we have been impacted with COVID. That does not mean we haven't had some in-person events, which we have had some forums, which have been lovely, but we miss our Kemper gallery meetings. And Susanna has managed to make this thing keep pushing through. And there's a piece that we put together called the Top 5, which mentions this event here. Thank you, Bunker, for letting us meet here. But it also talks about things like making sure we got artists on television, making sure we were able to help people get grants. It's something that Guildit has always believed in, and we want to continue to do that. So thank you so much for being here today, for supporting Kansas City's arts community, and especially for supporting Guildit. It is an organization that is like no other in the city, and I hope that you all will remember that as you leave the door and you think about coming on the mailing list, so that you can hear about the forums and you can just be part of it. You can see some of the things that happen here. This has been a phenomenal afternoon. So thank you.
Yeah, Amy's been a very enriching member of Guildit, and I'm going to welcome Glenn back up here to do a quick testimony about how Guildit has enriched his career, and then Ada will join in.
So I have a procrastination problem. I have an organization problem. I have kind of been very blessed in Kansas City to get opportunities based on word of mouth, and Kansas City being relatively small. But what the impression that was made up on me when I first had an opportunity to present at Guildit was the need for me to, if I don't have those qualities, to work on that, but in the meantime, find the help and support that's necessary in those areas where you struggle. And so they were instrumental in me taking seriously finding someone to help me develop a website, finding someone to help me. I'm not working with that person anymore, but because she moved, it was nothing bad. But to help me with, bookings and to help me sometimes be a buffer when honoraria and stipends were being negotiated. So I had been kind of like making things happen on my own, but was not able, I just did not have the bandwidth to keep up with a lot of the opportunities that were coming my way. And I had not presented my best self in terms of certain things that people look for, like a website, if they're going to take you seriously. And so Guildit really helped me to think more seriously about myself as an artist, to try to find support and to try to do those things that would help to advance my career. There were really very important people in the audience who were posing questions and also offering the kind of help that I needed. So I was very grateful for that. And that was, I don't know how many years ago.
2015, and then I think
Okay.
Sherry Hall helped you with,
Yeah.
and that was probably 2017.
Okay, yeah.
With your radio launch.
Right. So about 6 years, and so Susanna has just been very persistent, because sometimes I can be very slippery, hard to connect with, so I'll just put it out there. If you ever email me and I don't get right back to you, just know, charge it to my head and not my heart. I'm just trying to balance this crazy thing we call life. But thank you so much for all you're doing for artists in the community. Yeah.
Definitely I do it with Hugh and all the other people that I'll be introducing later. But first I want to introduce Ada really quick and let her talk a little bit about her, what happened last September and how this came to be.
Yeah, what happened?
And I should let you know too, Ada is a very cornerstone of the visual arts in Kansas City. She sits on the board of the Artist Coalition. She is the founder of KC Open Studio, right? And so she's been very instrumental in helping the growth in Kansas City arts.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I think a lot of you know about Guildit, but I've had a wonderful experience. And this show, I'm so glad that this show is happening in the spring, because things are warmer, there's energy, things are growing, and this whole collaboration idea that we have going on with the 3 galleries here is about artists who work together and grow so much more because of sharing. Working with Glenn has really changed my work and my life completely. I never would have gone these directions. He gives me ideas, critiques, questions what I've been doing, challenges it, but when he compliments it, it just makes me soar.
Same here.
Thank you. And so, but that's my work. And I think Guildit comes in because a healthy arts community is not just about growing each artist's work, but about helping the artists work together in the community. It's more too than just finding entertainment venues or galleries, as wonderful as this is. There's more to it. And so Guildit comes in. They contacted me last fall, said, would you like to have an afternoon, event? And I jumped on that. I was a little hesitant because it meant I had to do a PowerPoint presentation. But the fun thing about Guildit is it's not just a class on art business. It's all about me for that session. And why not? So everyone wanted to know, what are my goals? What are my problems? And I had to stop and think, because we kind of just get going on this path sometimes, and it's healthy to stop and say, what are my goals? Is that going to get me where I want to be? And so this was very valuable. And Guildit, adds that extra level of connection in a community, and I think makes for a really healthy arts community, really healthy, business community. And thank you. And so at our luncheon, TJ was there, and you get input from different people. And I had a goal, and TJ raised his hand and said, I think we can work on this together, and this is it. So yay, happy ending.
And so I just wanted to add a seed grows. And so as Ada came and brought all these wonderful artists here, TJ and Hugh Merrill connected, and now TJ's representing Hugh Merrill, or I should say, the Bunker's representing Hugh Merrill, and that's just been blossoming for him this last month too. Kept him very busy, more busy than he thought he would be this month. So, but that's wonderful. What hotel is his work now in?
Hotel Indigo Crossroads.
Yes.
20th and Grand.
So,
Yeah.
so there,
Yeah.
wonderful works of Hugh's there. TJ's also managed to sell a few others this month. So again, one thing can lead to another, and another good thing lead to another. So just spread the good things, and they're non-ending. So so we encourage you to be a part of the arts, spread the goodness, and now I want to take just a few moments to introduce some board members we have here. We have one of our sponsors, Brian Israel, who is with our sponsor, MVP Law Firm. We want to thank him. Evan was here earlier. He had to leave, but he's also one of our sponsors. Scheffberger is his last name, Evan Scheffberger. He brought his family. It was wonderful to meet them. You know, too, we're just getting to meet some board members because of COVID. So we want to thank them for all their patience with us and helping us sit through these online meetings, and also helping us do these events. Again, I mentioned Amy. GK is he's a staff member, and he's been with us for about 4 years. You saw him as he greeted you at the door, GK Callahan. I also want to introduce Alex Gilmore, who's back there in the back, who's our board president. We also have Kurt Jackson, who's sitting next to him, and we want to thank him for being on board with us. And I also want to give a big thank you to Linda Whiten, who helped fund our events, and she was a funder last year, as well as EAG marketing firm. They're big on entrepreneurism and the arts as well. We thank them for their support. So I want to thank you all for coming, supporting Guildit, and supporting us. We are going to go to the lobby now, where we're going to dismantle our mural, but we encourage you, take food home with you.
Yep.
We have a lot of food, and you know, we had a sponsor up there give just last week, and we were like, okay. So so we went ahead and then we had some wonderful donors from Hy-Vee and Mike's Liquor and Costco and such. So we have lots of food that you can take home with you if you'd like, as well as a canvas and a gift bag. So make sure you leave with all those things.
All right.
Thank you for coming.